If you asked anyone on Maple Street about Elias Varn, they would all give you the same answer. Not similar, the same. He's quiet. He keeps to himself. Nothing wrong with him, just strange. But no one ever said they knew him, and that's the part that matters. I lived next door to Elias for almost 3 years. 3 years of watching the same man live the same life over and over again, like he was stuck in a loop no one else could see. Every morning, 7:15 a.m. exactly. Not early, not late. Never off by even a minute. He would step out of his front door holding a black ceramic mug. I could see the steam rising from it. Even from my window, fresh hot. Precise. He'd walk to the edge of his porch, stop, look up at the sky, not casually, not like someone checking the weather, more like someone verifying something. Counting seconds, measuring light waiting. And then, slowly, he would turn his head. Toward my house, toward me. And he would smile. At first, I smiled back. Because that's what you do. That's what normal people do. But his smile never changed. Not once. Not on cloudy days. Not on hot mornings. Not even the day the power went out across the entire block. Same expression. Same angle. Samey stillness. After a while, it stopped feeling like a greeting. It started feeling like confirmation. Like he wasn't smiling at me. He was checking if I was still there. That's when I stopped waving. But it didn't matter, he kept smiling. Every morning, like nothing had changed, Elias lived alone. At least that's what everyone believed. No visitors, no friends, no family, no sounds from inside the house, no music, no television. Except Thursdays. Every Thursday at exactly 6:40 p.m. a van would arrive. Plain white. No markings. No company logo. Nothing to identify it. It would pull up quietly in front of his house. Engine running, doors closed, 5 minutes. Exactly 5 minutes. Then it would leave. No one ever saw anything being carried in or out. At first, I thought it was deliveries, groceries, maybe supplies. But then I realized something. Elias never carried anything inside. Not once. And that's when the routine started to feel wrong. The second thing I noticed was the basement. You wouldn't see it unless you were looking. And even then, you might miss it. A small, narrow window near the base of the house, half hidden by shadow. During the day, it looked like nothing, dark, still, empty. But at night, it changed. The first time I saw the light, I thought it was a reflection. Something passing by, a car maybe, but then it happened again, and again, flickering, not steady, not warm, uneven. Like something electrical struggling to stay alive. Or something inside, trying to get out. That's when the smell started. It came late at night, after midnight, never during the day, never when people were outside. Just when everything was quiet, a faint metallic scent, not strong enough to make you panic, but just enough to make you uncomfortable. Like your brain recognized it. Before you did. I tried to ignore it. Told myself it was pipes. Old metal. Maybe even rust. Until the night Max reacted. Max was my dog. A German shepherd, strong, protective, fearless. He had never backed down from anything. Until that night. We were walking past Elias's house. Same route as always, samey time. But when we got to his gate, Max stopped. Not slowed. Stopped, his body went stiff. Ears raised, eyes locked on one place, the basement window. Then came the growl, low, deep, a warning. I tried pulling him forward. Max, come on, but he wouldn't move. And then, I saw it. The basement light. Flickering again, but this time, it wasn't random. It was rhythmic, on, off. On, off. Like a signal, like something inside was trying to communicate. And then, darkness, complete silence. Max whimpered, actually whimpered, and pulled me away. That was the moment everything changed. Because for the first time, I wasn't just curious, I was afraid. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the basement. It wasn't just the light, or the smell, it was the pattern. Everything about Elias followed a pattern. So if the basement light was flickering, it wasn't random, it meant something. I started paying attention, more than I should have. Watching his house at night. Timing the flickers. Counting the gaps between light and darkness, and slowly, something unsettling became clear. It wasn't electrical. It was controlled. The flickers weren't glitches. They were intervals measured. Precise like a code. And then I noticed something else. The shadows, at first they looked normal. Movement behind a light source. Nothing unusual. Until I really looked, they didn't move like people. No walking, no shifting. Slow. Uneven, sometimes they would stop completely, then jerk suddenly, like something resisting, or something being forced. That's when sleep became difficult. Because every night, I found myself looking at that window waiting, watching, and every time the light came on, I felt the same thing, like I wasn't the only one watching. Like something down there knew I was there. Then came the night everything escalated. It was around 2:30 a.m. The light flickered again, but this time, it didn't stop, it stayed on, bright. Too bright. And then something moved in front of it, not a shadow, a shape, clear, human, standing still facing the window, facing me. I froze. Because I realized something. That wasn't Elias, it was too small, too thin, and then it raised its hand. Slowly and pressed it against the glass. I couldn't breathe. The fingers bent. Wrong. Like they had been broken. And never healed correctly. I stumbled back from the window, heart racing. Mind trying to explain what I just saw. But there was no explanation that made sense. Because that meant only one thing. Elias wasn't alone. And whatever was in that basement was still alive. After seeing that hand, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was happening in that house. Something real. Something wrong. And the only pattern I hadn't fully understood yet was the van. Thursday, 6:40 p.m. It arrived again. This time, I was ready. I stayed outside, pretending to work on my car, watching from a distance. The van pulled up slowly, samey as always, engine running. No driver stepped out, no doors opened. Just waiting minutes passed. Nothing happened, and just when I started to think I was wrong, I heard it, a sound faint from inside the van, a knock soft, but unmistakable. I froze. Then it came again, knock, knock, not random, intentional, desperate. My chest tightened. That wasn't cargo, that was someone inside. Alive, trying to be heard. I took a step forward, then another, heart pounding louder with each movement. And then the knocking stopped. Completely silence, like whoever was inside realized something. Or worse, something realized them. Before I could react, the van door clicked, just once, from the inside. Then, nothing. And after exactly 5 minutes, the van drove away. Like it always did. Like nothing had happened. I stood there in silence. Because deep down, I finally understood. Those weren't deliveries, they were people, and they weren't leaving, they were being taken inside into the basement. And whatever was happening down there was still happening. Right now, after the van left that night, I didn't sleep. Not even for a minute. I kept replaying the sound in my head, that knocking, weak, desperate, human. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hand against the basement glass, those fingers bent in ways they shouldn't be. By morning, I told myself I was overreacting. That stress can make you hear things, see things. But Max didn't think so. The next evening when it was time for our walk, he refused. Not hesitated, not slowed down, refused. He sat by the door, stiff, ears alert, eyes fixed on me like he was trying to warn me. Come, Come on, I said, grabbing his leash. He didn't move. Then he let out a low whine. Not fear, not pain, warning. I forced him anyway. We stepped outside. Everything felt normal. Too normal. The street was quiet. The air still, but as we got closer to Elias Varn's house, Max started pulling back. His claws scraping against the pavement, and then he started growling. Deep, louder than before. I followed his gaze, straight to the basement window. And that's when I saw something new. The light wasn't flickering. It was steady bright. Too bright. And something was blocking it. A shape, moving slowly across the window, dragging. I felt my chest tighten, then a sound from inside the house, not loud, but clear. A thud, followed by a scrape, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. Max snapped. He barked loud, aggressive, frantic, not at the door, not at the yard, at the ground, at the basement. And then everything went silent. The light shut off instantly. Like someone flipped a switch. Max stopped barking, but he didn't relax. He backed away slowly, eyes still locked on the house, like whatever was inside was still watching us. That's when I noticed something else. The front door of Elias's house was slightly open. Just a crack. I stared at it, because I knew something wasn't right. Elias never left his door open. Never, and yet, there it was, breathing darkness into the quiet street. Max let out another whine, this time softer, almost pleading. "Let's go," I whispered, and for once I didn't argue with him. Because something inside me finally accepted the truth. Whatever was happening in that house was getting worse. The police didn't come the next day, or the day after, which made everything worse. Because now I had time to think. Time to imagine, time to question whether I should have called someone. But what would I even say? My neighbor's basement light flickers. I think I heard knocking in a van. It sounded insane. So I stayed quiet. And that's the part that still haunts me, because maybe if I had said something earlier, things would have been different. 3 days later, they arrived. No sirens, just lights flashing silently against the houses. 3 patrol cars, 2 unmarked vehicles. They moved with purpose. Like they weren't investigating, they were confirming. I stepped outside. Mailbox in hand, heart racing. 2 officers. Approached the front door, knocked, waited, knocked again, nothing. One of them tried the handle, locked. Then a third officer walked around the side of the house. Everything was still, too still, and then a shout, sharp, urgent. "Call it in. We're going inside." My stomach dropped. They drew their weapons, forced the door open, and disappeared inside. Seconds passed, then silence, heavy, oppressive silence. Until one of the officers stumbled back out, bent over, and vomited on the lawn. That's when the neighbors started coming out. Phones, whispers, fears spreading fast. "What happened? Is someone hurt? Is he dead?" No one answered. Because then, they brought something out. A body covered with a sheet, but not fully, an arm slipped free. Pale, too pale. And the fingers, I felt my chest tighten, bent, twisted. Just like the hand I saw in the window. That's when reality hit hard. That wasn't imagination, that wasn't stress. That was real, and it was only the beginning, because then, they opened the basement. Even from where I stood, I could feel it. The air changed, cold, heavy, and that smell, stronger now, no longer faint, no longer ignorable. It hit like a wave. And then they started bringing more out, 1, 3, each one worse. Each one broken in ways that didn't make sense. Different sizes, different ages, but all with the same thing, those hands, those ruined, reconstructed hands. And Elias Varn, nowhere. Gone. Like he had vanished into thin air. But deep down, I knew he didn't run. He was already gone. Before they even got there, they didn't stop. That's what no one tells you. You think it's 1 body, maybe 2, but it kept going. For hours the sun started to set, and they were still bringing them out, covered, labeled, bagged, like evidence, not people. And that's when something inside me shifted. This wasn't just a crime. This was something systematic, planned, organized, because no one does this accidentally. I watched from my window as investigators moved in. Gloves, cameras, evidence kits, and then they brought out something different. Not a body, a box. Old metal, heavy-handled, carefully, like it mattered more than everything else. Then another, and another, until there was a line of them. That's when the rumors started. Their records, files, evidence, logs. But the truth was worse. They were his notes, his work. Everything he had done, documented. That night. I couldn't stay inside. I needed to know. So I stepped outside, slowly, carefully, and got closer than I should have. One of the officers had left a file partially open, just enough for me to see. I shouldn't have looked, but I did, and what I read still follows me. Subject 12, severe structural imbalance in left hand. Correction initiated. Below it, photos before. After. The after wasn't better. It was worse, far worse. Bones forced into unnatural positions. Skin stretched. Damage disguised as improvement. And then one line, written carefully, almost proudly. Pain tolerance increasing. Progress observed. I felt sick, because that's when I understood. Elias didn't think he was hurting them. He thought he was helping. Fixing them, perfecting them, even if it meant destroying them first. And then I saw the last entry on that page. Subject still responsive. I froze, because that meant they were alive. While he was doing it, while he was breaking them, while he was reshaping them. They were alive. I stepped back, heart pounding, because one thought kept repeating in my mind over and over. If he did all of this, if he planned all of this, then there was no way he didn't plan what came next. For 3 nights after the survivor reports, nothing happened, no lights, no sounds, no movement. Elias Varn was still missing, And slowly, people started convincing themselves it was over, that he had fled, that he was gone for good. But fear doesn't disappear that easily. It waits, and then it comes back. Stronger. It was 1:47 a.m. when I saw it again. I don't know why I was awake. Maybe I hadn't really slept since the police came. Maybe something inside me already knew, but I was at the window, looking out, at his house. And that's when it happened. The basement light turned on, instantly. Bright. Too bright. I froze, because that was impossible. The house was sealed. Polished tape locks, guards earlier that day. No one was supposed to be inside. And yet, there it was. The same light, the same position. The same unnatural glow. My heart started pounding, because deep down, I already knew what it meant. He was back. Or worse, he had never left. The light flickered once. Then again, slow, deliberate. And then a shadow moved across the window. I stopped breathing. It wasn't fast, it wasn't normal. It dragged, like something heavy being pulled, or someone who couldn't walk properly. The shape paused, right in front of the window, and then it tilted, like it was looking up, toward me. My entire body went cold, because I realized something horrifying. That wasn't random movement. That was awareness. It knew I was watching. I stumbled back, heart racing, hands shaking. I reached for my phone, dialed emergency. But before I could speak, the light shut off. Instant darkness. Silence like it had never happened. I stood there in the dark, listening, waiting. But nothing came. No sound. Just that overwhelming feeling that something had looked directly at me and recognized me. The next morning, I didn't wait. I went outside immediately, straight toward Elias's house. I don't know why. Maybe I needed proof. Maybe I needed to convince myself I imagined it. But as soon as I got closer, I saw it. The tape. The police tape that had sealed the house wasn't broken. It wasn't torn. It wasn't damaged. It was opened. Carefully. Like someone had lifted it, stepped through, and placed it back. My stomach dropped. Because that meant one thing. Whoever went inside knew exactly what they were doing. I stepped closer. The front door was closed, but not fully. Just slightly misaligned, like it hadn't been shut properly, and suddenly I remembered something. The night Max barked. The door had been open then too, not wide. Just enough, like an invitation. Or a mistake. Or a habit. I backed away slowly, because every instinct in my body was screaming the same thing. Don't go inside. Don't get closer, don't let it see you again. That's when I noticed something else. Footprints faint, leading away from the house. Not toward the street. Toward the side. Toward the narrow gap between our houses. My chest tightened, because that path led directly to my backyard. I turned slowly, looking at my house, my windows, my door. And for the first time since all of this started, I didn't feel like I was observing something dangerous. I felt like something dangerous was observing me. That afternoon, the police came back. But this time, they weren't investigating. They were warning. Keep your doors locked. Do not go out at night. If you see anything unusual, call immediately. Their voices were calm, but their eyes told the truth. They hadn't caught him, not even close. And whatever happened last night, they knew about it, which meant one thing. I wasn't imagining it. He was back, and he was closer than ever. I checked every lock that night, twice, then 3 times. Windows, doors, back entrance, everything. Secure. Or at least that's what I told myself. I turned off the lights, Saturday in the living room, listening, waiting. Every small sound felt louder. Every shadow felt wrong. And time moved slower than it ever had before. 1 o'clock a.m. Nothing. 2 o'clock a.m. Still nothing. I started to think maybe I was overreacting. Maybe fear had finally gotten to me. Maybe a sound. Behind me, I froze. Not loud, but close. Too close. I turned slowly, the kitchen dark still. Nothing out of place. I stood up, heart pounding, walked toward it carefully. Every step felt heavier than the last. And then I saw it. On the table, a piece of paper, folded. My breath caught in my throat because I knew that hadn't been there before. I reached for it, hands shaking, opened it, and read the words inside. I saw you watching. I couldn't breathe. My mind went blank. Because there was only one explanation. Simone had been inside. Not earlier, not during the day, just now. While I was in the house, while I was sitting there, while I thought I was alone. I dropped the paper, ran to the door, checked the lock. Still secured. Windows closed. No signs of forced entry. Nothing broken. Nothing moved except that note, that message, that proof. And then something worse hit me. He didn't break in. He didn't need to. He came in quietly, carefully, confidently, like he had done it before, like he knew exactly how. I backed away slowly, because now everything had changed. This wasn't observation anymore. This wasn't curiosity. This wasn't fear from a distance. This was personal. Because Elias Varn wasn't hiding, he wasn't running, he wasn't escaping, he was choosing. And somehow, for some reason, he had chosen me. After the note, I didn't call the police, I should have, but something stopped me, because deep down, I knew they wouldn't understand. How do you explain something like that? He left a note in my house. They'd ask how he got in, and I wouldn't have an answer, because I had checked everything. Every lock, every window, nothing was broken. Nothing forced, and yet he had been inside. That meant something worse than a break-in. It meant access. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, lights off, watching the hallway, listening to every sound. Time stretched. Every second felt longer than the last. 2:17 a.m. nothing. 2:43 a.m. Still nothing. 3:12 a.m. That's when I heard it. A sound, faint, low, coming from below. I froze, because I knew exactly where it was coming from. The basement, my basement. At first, I thought it was pipes. Old houses make noise. They shift. They creak. But this wasn't that. This was deliberate. A scrape, slow, heavy, like something being dragged across the floor. My throat went dry. Because I had never used my basement for anything storage. Boxes, nothing else. No reason for movement, no reason for sound. And yet, there it was again. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. Closer this time. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my chest. I stood up slowly, every instinct telling me not to move, not to go near it, not to acknowledge it. But something else pushed me forward, something stronger, the need to know. I walked toward the basement door. Each step felt heavier than the last. The sound stopped. Right as I reached it. Silence. Complete silence. Like whatever was down there knew I was standing above it, waiting, listening. I placed my hand on the door handle, cold, too cold, like the temperature below was different, lower wrong. I didn't open it, not yet. I stood there, frozen between fear and curiosity, and then a knock from the other side, soft, slow, 3 times. I stumbled back, heart racing, because that sound, I had heard it before. Not in my house, in the van that same week. Desperate, human knock. And that's when the realization hit me hard. Whatever was in Elias Varn's basement was no longer in his house. It was here. Under mine. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at the basement door. Seconds. Minutes, it felt like hours. My mind kept searching for explanations. Anything that made sense. But there was nothing. Because no explanation could answer one simple question. How did it get there? I hadn't opened that basement in weeks. No reason to. No sound, no movement, nothing. Until now. The silence on the other side of the door felt heavier than the noise. Like something was waiting. Not trying to escape, not trying to break through, just waiting. For me, my hand moved before I could stop it, slowly. I reached for the handle again. Every instinct screamed at me to walk away, to call someone, to leave the house, but I didn't, because somewhere deep inside, I already knew. This wasn't something I could run from. I turned the handle. The door creaked open, a rush of cold air hit my face, and that smell, that same metallic scent, stronger now, stronger than it had ever been. I stepped down, one step at a time, each creak of the stairs echoing through the darkness. The light didn't work, or maybe it had been turned off. I couldn't tell, but there was light, faint, coming from below. Not from a bulb, from something else, something placed there. I reached the bottom step, and then I saw it, the room. My basement was no longer mine. Everything had changed. The boxes were gone. Replaced, a table stood in the center, metal. Cold, familiar. I wanted for all of them. He glanced toward the table. Their improvement. My stomach dropped because I already knew what that meant. You're broken, he said calmly. Not insult, not anger, statement. Everyone is. He picked up the notebook, turned it toward me. Subject 28, he read, then looked up. High awareness, strong adaptability. He nodded slightly. Good foundation. I shook my head. No, no, I'm not. You are, he interrupted, still calm, still certain. You just don't see it yet. He stepped closer, too close, and then he reached for my hand. I tried to pull away, but he was faster, stronger than he looked. His grip tightened, firm, controlled. Don't worry, he said softly. This will make you better, that sentence. The same one the survivors said. The same one I had heard before, and now it was mine. I struggled, panicked. But his grip didn't change, didn't tighten, didn't loosen, just steady, precise. Like everything else he did, and then I saw it. On the table. The tools ready, waiting, prepared long before I ever came down here. Because this wasn't a chance encounter, this wasn't timing. This was design. He had planned this, from the beginning, from the moment I started watching, from the moment I noticed him. And that's when the final realization hit me. Elias Varn didn't hide from people. He found them, the observant ones, the curious ones, the ones who looked too closely. Because those were the ones he believed could be improved. His grip tightened slightly, not enough to hurt, just enough to control. And then he smiled again, that same perfect practice smile, and said, "Let's begin."